God, I love that music. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Facade. I'm your host, Gavin J. Gallagher, and on this podcast, I explore the mental and emotional game often playing out subconsciously in your mind and the mind of everyone else in the real estate or property investment market. The key to success in this game is to master your mindset and behavior to get control of your thought processes, your emotions, and most importantly, your ego. So here we are, guys, episode 27, and it has been recorded on Sunday, the 1st of November. I'm at home still. We're in the middle of this lockdown here in Dublin. And last week's episode, I spoke about the opportunities in retail and building your own home. And before I get into today's episode, I'll give you just a quick little update. First of all, as always, I'd just like to point you to the Facebook group that I operate. It's called Behind the Facade Community. We have about 240 members, and it's the best way to get in contact with me if you want to participate in the Q&A sessions that I do and the live videos that I do on the group and things like that. So just give, if you could, guys, we're constantly getting new members in there, and I do a couple of live videos every week. So please do consider joining up there. And I thought I would just tell you guys about something. I don't often do this, but I've been watching Netflix for the last couple of days, and I'm going to give you a show recommendation. There's a new show out called The Queen's Gambit, and it's this girl, Anya Taylor-Joy, plays a chess prodigy, and it's based between America and Russia and things like that. Super show, really enjoyed it, and I don't know if anybody is interested in chess, but it's quite the game, and this show kind of shows how the guys kind of can go a bit bonkers, the chess grandmasters, and definitely recommend that one for yourselves. Wanted to give a quick shout out to one of our listeners. Now, this person enjoys their privacy, so I'm not going to share their name, but they are in the process of writing a book, and they will be donating 100% of the proceeds to a charity called Clina's Foundation. Now, Clina's Foundation helps families with children in palliative care, and I am honored to have been asked to write a small section for a book that is being prepared, and 100% of the proceeds will be going to Clina's Foundation. So just I'll put a link in the show notes below to Clina's Foundation, and if anyone is feeling charitable in this coming up to Christmas and all that, we can't believe Halloween is only over and we're already talking about Christmas. 3 months, this week I started a 3-month intensive focus period where I'm going to be putting my own book together, and I'm also in the process of getting ready to start training for my Ironman. The Ironman race is next August, so I'm giving myself, we're coming up on 40 weeks until the event, and I thought I would remind you guys that anyone who is interested in learning more about my book, you should sign up to the website newsletter, and that way I'll have your email. I can let you know when the book is about to be released. So if you want to go and sign up for that, gavinjgallagher.com/go, and that will get you directly into the email list sign up. All right, so let's get into the meat of the episode, shall we? Today, I am having a conversation with Mr. Damien Browne of Standard Access. Now, Damien comes from Dingle in County Kerry, which is on Ireland's southwest coast, and it's a very rural part, beautiful part of the country. And anybody who doesn't know about Dingle, you should just do a little Google search on it there. It's famous for its dolphin that sort of is resident in the harbour. And despite being based in Kerry, Damien is actually a very well-travelled man, and he has lived all around the world. He's lived in San Francisco, he's lived in Sydney, Australia, and he spent 17 or 18 years involved in the property business. He ended up back in Ireland involved with his family property business, and like many of us, they were badly impacted by the 2008 global financial crisis. And unlike myself, who went abroad in search of projects and things like that to kind of keep the show on the road, Damien turned the struggles he was experiencing into an opportunity to pivot into the tech sector. And In particular, he sort of looked at door locks and monetizing access control. So what he has created is a smartphone operated door lock that is linked to a payment platform. So anyway, I'll let Damien explain it better. Without any further ado, my conversation with Damien Browne. All right, so today I have Mr. Damien Browne from Standard Access on the podcast. Damien, welcome aboard. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's good to talk to you again.
You're coming all the way from the rare old Dingle Peninsula.
That's right, yeah, down in Southwest. Thankfully, we have a beautiful day today. It's been
nice. I can see the sun shining on your wall. Well, just to remind you, we have kind of a global audience. We have people all over the US listening, in Australia and England and things like that. But for the Irish audience, everyone knows Dingle pretty well. It's the home of Fungi the dolphin, and there's been a lot of controversy about where's Fungi gone in the last few weeks on the newspapers here. They're obviously running out of stories to tell, But just to get started, Damien, we're going to go into all of your business and all that kind of stuff. But for the people in the audience that have never heard of you, can you just give us a little bit of an overview and a backstory as to what started, what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I spent nearly all my life working in property. I was a commercial landlord for a long time, buying and selling investment properties in Ireland, UK, and a little bit in Europe. And did that for about 17 or 18 years. And the recession came in 2008, 2009. And so cash flow just sunk. And I was, for a few years, obviously trying to cut costs everywhere and to keep cash flow going. And I was trying to figure out a way how I could use technology to I suppose, take advantage of the inefficiencies in managing portfolios, like key holding and not being able to be in more than one place at the same time, and having multiple sites across different jurisdictions, and trying to manage, like I said, key holders, real estate agents, maintenance teams, engineers, surveyors, inspections for potential new tenants or local government to do building inspections and so on and so forth. And so the problems I faced every day was opening doors remotely for people depending on key holders who may or not may turn up. Keys go missing, locksmiths are needed to come in. Fix problems like leaks at 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to get people in to open doors. And also then during the recession, the big problem was trying to collect rent on time. So got that light bulb moment in early 2014 to use mobile phones to possibly to open doors, I was thinking, and also to be able to manage a platform, desktop platform, to be able to manage all my spaces and all the people who need access to those spaces, and the ability to sell the space behind each door to potential tenants. And I wanted to go further than that. I wanted to manage utilities and telecoms by the millisecond, to bill it that way and things like that. And so I went to my local university and I said to them I wanted to build this platform that I could upload all my spaces, and so other landlords could use it as well, so that tenants could come along, potential customers could come along, they could select from size of property, location of property, type of property, how long they want for duration and their budget, and they would get a list of options at the end. So if it's a warehouse or an office or an apartment or a hotel room or whatever it may be, or a lockup, that they would get options at the end of the filter, and we'll say it's going to be $20,000 for an office in the Upper East Side of Manhattan for 2 months, and they'd make payment in real time, bank transfer or credit card. And if they made a successful transaction, then our back-end server would create keys and send part of the key to that door, keep part of the key in the cloud, and the other part of the key would be generated by their phone. So that was the concept behind it. We spent about 5 years in R&D. We looked at different protocols like Bluetooth and NSC and things like that. Protocols I didn't personally really like because of security and pairing issues and power issues. And as well as that, at the time, NSC wasn't available on the iOS phones. So I said to the researchers in the college, I said, wouldn't it be really cool? I said, if you could send a burst of sound from your phone to unlock a door. Because every one who has a phone then could use it, because every phone has a speaker and microphone, and then it wouldn't be limited. Everybody could use it. It'd be like a universal set of keys. So they looked into it, and they found out we could. So we started building our early prototypes using sound, and we filed intellectual property in the United States. And funnily enough, last Friday, our patent was approved in the United States after a 5-year battle with the examiner in the US Patent Office. So that was a nice lift to get. And we started selling into the social housing sector in the UK late last year. And we had big plans for 2020. And like everybody else, they all came crashing down in April. So yeah, it's like everybody else has set everything back at least a year in terms of our rollout. So it's been a challenging year. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to take you back now, just pre business and stuff like that. I mean, where did you go to school in Kerry? That's where you were born and raised?
In Kerry. I finished high school, secondary school, and I went to college for a year. I wasn't terribly academic at school.
What did you study?
Like school. Pardon?
What did you study?
I studied business studies in the college in Scotland.
Scotland. Okay, yeah.
Dropped out after a year, knew it wasn't for me, and I started to travel the world to America. I lived in San Francisco. I lived in Sydney in Australia, and a few other places. I was always working in construction. Started out labouring, and started to make some money doing that after a while. And so my background is, I suppose, always been in the property sector.
In property. And then I saw the Browne group in your LinkedIn. Is that was your own personal business?
Yeah, it was me and my dad had a company. That was just a holding company for investment properties across Ireland, UK, and a bit in Europe.
Okay, I get you. And like us all, back 2008 became a bit of a challenge for pretty much everyone in the world. So okay. Well, I mean, it's great to know that obviously when you have a background in property, you have a very good kind of handle on all of the different issues that you face as a manager or as an owner, as an investor. And so it's kind of positioned you really well in terms of the way your business is structured. I see you're mentioning patents in the US and things like that. So how much of your business is US kind of centric and versus Ireland? I mean, obviously coming from the Dingle Peninsula, a lot of people would assume that it's an Irish focused business, but it's far from that. It's in the UK. It's in
we haven't actually been selling into the United States at the moment. That was just kind of like a strategy, I suppose, 5 years ago to give us protection in the markets we intend to go into.
Okay.
But 2021, the end of 2021 is when we were hoping to go into New York. But now we have the protection. It gives us the impetus to get there a bit faster.
I get you. Yeah. And let's just staying on the property management side, because I know how challenging that can be. Did you, what aspects of that? Obviously, you've transitioned into kind of technology and stuff like that. Was there any particular aspect of the property business that you disliked, or was it just?
What was driving me insane was when you're looking for a new tenant for a commercial building, the whole time it took, the amount of money you spent in marketing, choosing the right real estate agent, trying to find that tenant. I think the return on the amount of inquiries to actually executing a lease, the return was about 5%. It's about 1 in 20.
Wow.
And that drove me insane during the recession. Before I came up with the idea for using technology, it drove me insane that you had all these third-party people dictating whether I was going to get a tenant and not get paid some rent. And that just drove me insane. And
you wanted direct contact rather than through a third party.
Yeah, it's just the tenancy laws in Ireland, UK, and in the USA, and Canada, Australia, they're all based on British tenancy law, which is about 300 years old.
Yeah.
And it's, if you looked at it objectively, it's absolutely insane. And whereas trying to find a tenant, get that tenant there, get contracts signed, get leases signed, to carry out. It's I don't think anybody would get into property if they knew
what's
how
involved.
cumbersome it can be. I know that people always get into property, but it's not as easy as people may think from the outside, especially in commercial space. And it's meant to be either. It's obviously meant to be barriers to entry, but in fact, it's the amount of third-party people who get in your way trying to generate revenue today. If I want to stay in a hotel tonight, I can book it online, or I can walk in off the street. I can book a room. I pay in cash. There's no such thing as I'll pay in 3 months' time. You get paid. Yeah. It's a cash business. And when I started looking at the leasing business, when you look at it objectively, you're actually competing with a bank for money in the future. It's like signing a letter of credit. You're signing a contract with a company who maybe pay you 6 months or 12 months of deposit, and in the hope that they'll pay you every quarter for the next 10 years or 5 years or 15 years. And that's basically competing for money with a bank. But in fact, if that tenant goes, the most you're probably going to get is probably a year's deposit in escrow, or at the very
if you're lucky. Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, not even.
The laws are very hard to implement if something goes wrong. Whereas if it's a bank loan, they'll have their clause in your pension and your on all a host of other stuff, and you wouldn't take that. I think if people looked at it more objectively, they mightn't be as fast to get into buying investment properties, or it's a tough game, as you know well. But the business model is changing, and it has changed. It's already bolted. WeWork broke the mold 6 or 7 years ago, where you can rent an office for a month or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, or you can walk away.
Yeah,
so it's changing.
Yeah, it is. It's changing. And I mean, in terms of commercial property that you were in, which particular ones? I mean, obviously the retail sector has been knocked on its head. What investments did you guys manage in your company?
Offices, warehouses, and a little bit of retail. Mostly offices, mostly warehouses.
Well, the warehouses have fared quite well, generally speaking. But offices are pretty badly impacted as well. Our business park is we're looking at about 5% occupancy at the moment, and thankfully they're all big multinationals, so we don't have the same sort of problems that you would if there were like a mom and pop kind of a business, or a. But anyway,
I think the office sector is going. You might think I'm crazy, right? But I think the office sector is going to grow in the next couple of years, because I think that anybody coming, we'll say for any new leases that are going to be signed, or people who are looking at coming to Dublin or Limerick or Cork or New York or anywhere, they're going to be looking for more space, because everybody's going to have more space per person,
Well, the alternative is that they'll work from home. So
I don't think there's going to be one extreme. I think it'll be hybrid. I think it'll be
I agree with you there.
Flexi hours and stuff like that. A combination of. That's just my own personal opinion, and I think that the standard will become the Google or the Facebook style offices. And when we do see a reasonable return of people come back to the office, I think those tenants are going to look for more space.
Before we move on to talking about standard access and setting up the company and all that, I just to finish out, because there's a lot of listeners here who are aspiring property investors and stuff, and just wondering if you have any advice for property, given the portfolio that you assembled with your dad and stuff like that. Like, what advice would you give to investors that are kind of starting out now today?
Oh my God, that's a tough question.
I like asking the tough questions.
I don't know. You'd have to come up with your own criteria.
Would you invest in residential?
No. It depends. It depends on what market. In Ireland, no way.
No way.
Residential tenancy laws are daft and insane, and you don't protect the landlord or the tenant. Absolutely not. Commercial in Ireland, like you mentioned a while ago, industrial big box stuff is going to do well the next couple of years, and we've seen that this year with the massive, insane growth of the tech companies.
Yeah.
So the last mile stuff, the dark kitchens, as they call them, that kind of thing. There could be opportunities to reposition retail properties in the city centres to to miniature warehouses for that last mile delivery.
Yeah, I've been actually thinking about that. All right, the whole last mile is becoming a major issue. All right, yeah.
It's going to be or those places could become a pickup.
Yeah.
Instead of the expense of trying to deliver a parcel or a letter to everybody's house, go and pick up in your suburb drop off point or something. I don't know.
Well, it's one of the things that I've been thinking for the last year or two is that the way the retail market and the high street has gone is there's $1 billion industry there to whoever comes up with the repurposed, what can you do with all that space, because it's sitting there. The rents are going to keep on dropping and dropping and dropping on as the footfall drops and stuff, but they are valuable locations, central into the city and stuff. So if you can figure out how to repurpose that. Funnily enough, I was speaking to a friend who's based in London, and he was saying that there's a couple of retail units around really, really busy areas like Oxford Circus and things like that, where there's just millions of people milling around. And he says he's actually seen a place that you can store your bicycle. So they've actually, don't ask me how it works, but you cycle in and you can just park your bike, and it's in a shop. What was previously a retail unit is now a bicycle parking area. Wow. But of course, now that everyone is, people are trying to avoid buses and all that kind of stuff, it does become something that is actually, you can see people with a fancy bike or whatever, not wanting to kind of stick it out there with a chain around it or whatever. You put it into a proper storage facility and the whole place can get kind of looked after.
I saw something in London a couple of years ago. Someone told me about it. I don't know, it was Marylebone High Street or somewhere like that, where the landlord, I think it was like this one landlord owned the whole high street and redeveloped it and built apartments overhead. And for the retail units on the ground floor or on the street side, they wouldn't allow any chain stores in.
Okay. So it was only like a local store kind of thing.
Exactly. So crafters, boutiques, that kind of thing, high quality stuff. And they took a hit on the rent, but they got higher rent for the residential apartments upstairs because people want
because of it. Yeah.
In the destination area. And I saw another one in France, a city with something like 40% unemployment 10 years ago. The council came together, the businesses came together, the residents came together, and they did something similar. Every shop that was shut down, whatever, they repainted it, they opened it, free electricity, €1 a week for the first year or whatever it was, but they chose about who was coming into these places. That city, I can't think of the name, it's about an hour south of Paris.
There's a lot to be said for tenant selection.
An awful lot. And, if you have the retail mixed right, you can revitalise your city centre. I mean, I've been in Dublin a few times in the last 6 months, and in around Dublin too, Molesworth Street, Kildare Street, and doing a bit of work up there. And I've been shocked at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening when I'm trying to get out of the city before rush hour. I can't get a coffee anywhere. And there was an interesting article in the media recently where they just said, unfortunately, Dublin city centre 2 and 4 has been focused on offices, and there's nobody living in the city anymore.
Yeah, it's like they call it the donut city.
There's no 1 beds, there's no 2 beds, there's no 4-bedroom apartments. And maybe that's why it's like a ghost town.
Yeah, they call it the donut city, where everyone's living around the outside and there's nothing in the middle. Okay, Damien, let's move to you've decided that you're getting out of the property business and you want to get into technology, starting a technology company. That's quite a transition to make. You haven't got any experience. Like, where did you start? What was your first kind of move, your first kind of idea in terms of strategy?
Well, the reason I did it was because it was burning a hole in my pocket. So it was costs and draining my cash flow, which I suppose forced me to think about how I'm going to use technology to fix these problems. And I was thinking about, okay, I need to address the access control using smartphones. I need to address the ability to search for property and find the property I need. And I was thinking, okay, I'll have to go to China to get these products made. I'll have to hire engineers in Russia, software engineers, because you couldn't afford anybody in Dublin because they're all working for Google and Facebook. So my first port of call was to go to the Enterprise Ireland, which is the Irish government investment agency to look for ask them for their advice of where I should go. And they actually pointed me in the direction of my local university here in Kerry, who had the actual expertise I needed to build a proof of concept.
Really? Just there in Kerry? That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So
it just shows you don't have to look too far sometimes. A lot of people would make the assumption that, I'll have to go to Trinity College in Dublin or whatever, or go to London, some big fancy university in London, but it's right under your nose, essentially.
Yeah. There's like 10 of these in what they call industrial gateways around the country in the small universities. They all specialize in different things. Right. And the one in Kerry was actually had the expertise in what I was looking for. I was just very, very lucky.
Fascinating. And so, did you build some sort of an initial product, or how did you kind of, you obviously went to Enterprise Ireland for some funding as well, I guess, because they do all their grants and things like that. Was that an easy process?
Initially it was, you can get what they call an innovation grant, which you can spend with the third level institutions for €5,000. And I used that initially in my own cash to get the university to build me a proof of concept with hardware and with building a very simple dashboard.
When you say hardware, so did you mentioned before, so it's kind of like a sonic noise that comes from the smartphone.
Yeah. So
was that right from the word go? You had that kind of concept, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
The university said, I said to the university, I want a dashboard, and I said I want the hardware to allow people to walk through doors using phones and so on. And they started talking about NFC locks, smart locks, and August and Bluetooth and all these.
NFC is a near field.
Yeah, communications. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like you tap your card to pay for your goods in the supermarket or whatever, or your
near
phone.
Field, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's just a radio signal. And anyway, the reason I hate Bluetooth is because of pairing issues. And you drop the signal, then you got to pair it again. And as well as that, Bluetooth enabled locks. When you're connected to that lock, it's on all the time. So if you can you imagine walking down the hallway of an office building and there's got 10 Bluetooth enabled locks? They'd all open as you walk in proximity. And all the smart locks in the market at the time, all the intelligence was in the actual lock itself. So battery power is a big problem. No, that's probably okay in the home automation because it's for your own home or your apartment. But if you try to reposition that or repurpose that lock for a commercial environment, it wouldn't last 2 or 3 weeks because of the amount of people going through doors. So the two issues were protocol and power. So I said to college at the time, where the engineers we started to hire, I said, listen, let's just develop a dumb lock that only speaks when spoken to. Let's put a reader on the outside, and that reader will relay to the inside of the door to a gateway above the ceiling or behind the wall. I said, yeah, it's a bit clunky, but it'll work. It'll do what it's supposed to do. So that's what we ended up doing, and we built electronics from scratch. I couldn't go into my local Best Buy or electronics store to buy something off the shelf and copy it, because what I was doing had never been done before. So we spent a lot of time and a lot of money research and development, testing boards and speakers and microphones and LEDs and housing and getting it certified. And it was a long process, and it was a tough process. Like, as you know, I'm not a techie, so at the start I heard maybe I hired wrong people, and that was a very expensive lesson to learn. We have an amazing team right now. They are world-class software people and hardware people, but it took a long time to find the right team. They have great abilities and great attitudes, and we have a good dynamic, I suppose. Their expertise today would lie in artificial intelligence, the cloud, 5G, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
But hardware is hard. I met a government agency last year, and they were criticizing me that it took us 5 years to get where we were. And I said, listen, if you build a medical device from concept on the market shelf, I said, it takes about 10 years. I said, we did it in 5. And I said, we did something that was never done before. Mm. So, but saying all that, would I do it again? I don't know. And the problem is in Ireland is that we don't have a very tax-friendly environment for investing. And so the amount of investable money in Ireland is quite small. Even forget about population relatively to America, but the environment for investing isn't very conducive. No, the government
Not the
talks about
same as the US or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So with hindsight, it's a great thing. Yeah, I would have went to America absolutely. I went to New York or the Silicon Valley to try and raise a big chunk of change. So it's been a struggle trying to develop this on small rounds of investment.
Yeah, I'd say. And I mean, in terms of the process so far, like, is there any particular area where you hit a stone wall and you kind of think, geez, I wouldn't approach it this way? You just mentioned obviously funding. The way to do it is to go straight to the US or whatever. Don't waste your time trying to talk to investors in
I suppose
Ireland.
it depends what you're trying. Like with hardware, maybe. Yeah. I mean, software is a different story. I mean, you can if you throw enough of engineers at a problem with software, they'll figure it out very quickly. They can fix it. But with hardware, it takes time. I mean, you can build a hardware electronics box, and it looks great, and all the parts are working fine. And then you find out after 2 months, maybe the screw isn't strong enough to hold it on the wall, or the hole is too. There's so many things. I mean,
can go wrong. Yeah,
there's nearly 100 different active parts in our hardware, and our gateways have more processing power than my laptop I'm talking to you on now.
Jeez. So it sounds like you're building a Swiss watch that you fit to a door.
Yeah, from scratch.
From scratch.
Yeah.
You had to invent the technology first, and then you had to go and build the damn thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's a challenge. And I mean, yeah. And then on top of that, you've got like major sort of corporations around the world who might decide, oh, let's have a look at this ourselves. And of course, you face that potential risk of having somebody like that kind of.
It's always there. And when I started this first day, the most important things for me, as I explained to the technology experts, was the safety of my tenants and other people's tenants, and the safety of data. And I said, if we can have those two things protected and as much as possible, I said, that's a good strategy for me, because I know that my tenants then will stay longer, they'll be happier, and they'll pay me more rent. So security is a big part of our mission to put the best product on the market, and innovation. We're constantly innovating.
I mean, in terms of, I notice on your LinkedIn, you have a mention to Blue Power Energy. Is that something completely separate, or is it related in any way?
That's completely separate. Yeah.
That's wave power. You're trying to harness.
So it's a good friend of mine, Conor Haughey in Dublin, and we'd been sailing together for a long time, and we'd always been amazed, I suppose, by the power of nature and the force of energy created by the seas in getting our butts kicked by big storms. And his family were always interested in renewable energy as well. So we came up with an idea in 2008, I think it was, to develop a wave energy device that would be like a buoy sitting on top of the water, anchored to the seabed, and the force of the waves pushing it up and the weight of the machine going back down would help create electricity. And that was the concept. And we built about 11 different prototypes over the years, starting off with one about this size. And the last one was about 2 meters by 2.5 meters wide or something. That was quite a big machine. And we've got an intellectual property built around it as well. But it's a direct mechanical drive device. So yeah, it's been a hell of a journey, the process engineering, and a lot of money.
That's like another hardware product, basically.
Yeah, but it's on a much bigger scale.
Learn the first time,
yeah. I don't have any active day-to-day involvement with that company, but that's been an amazing journey, and it's probably something that will get over time. But it's like if you go back to the windmills back in the late 70s, early 80s, they started off with 1 kilowatt or half a killawatt machines,
and now they're huge,
and developed from there. So these things, whoever cracks it, it'll take them 20 years to do it, or 30 years maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity though, because if you look at the world, the the different locations around the world that have certain renewable energy strengths. Like you look at the Sahara Desert or whatever. I mean, clearly that has got solar panels, written all over it. But in terms of Irish weather, like we can have some pretty bad weather and overcast days for months on end. So solar would not be my go-to renewable. I would have thought wind or indeed wave energy is the way to go, because we're an island nation. Obviously, we surrounded by water, and therefore waves are. I mean, I grew up a lot of sailing as well, so I know the strength of the sea. I got caught in a couple of big storms with my dad, and the power of the ocean is just insanely powerful. And it's funny, today actually I just was tweeting images of these huge waves off the coast of Sligo that were surfed yesterday or the day before. It's incredible, like 20-meter waves, and the guys out surfing them. It's fascinating. So Damien, in terms of the challenges and the struggles that you've mentioned, obviously hardware. What about the kind of the softer side of the business, the marketing and the investment raising and all that? How has that gone for you? I mean, how have you gone about raising money from Dingle? Are you traveling all the time, or do you find that you're able to raise it from there?
Family and friends mostly, and all the people who invested so far, I knew them personally, and most of them, if they're not from this part of the world, they have a connection to this part of the world. Very hard to raise VC money in Ireland, especially when you're pre-revenue.
Yeah.
Because there's only a handful, maybe less than 10 VC firms in the country, and so the competition to get their attention is quite high. So unless you're generating revenue and probably making profits, chances of getting VC money in Ireland are quite slim compared to, say, America, where you would have thousands and thousands and thousands of VC firms. And as well as that, hardware as well. Most VC firms don't invest in hardware because they know how hard it is.
And so who are your target? Like, I mean, at some point you're going to have revenues and all that kind of stuff that kind of make the possibility of you going out and getting a big raise. What are your target kind of investors for that kind of a thing? Would you see yourself kind of going to a big kind of a hardware type business, like a conglomerate like GE or somebody like that, or where would you see yourself kind of going in the next couple of years?
I would say it might be a combination of different partnerships. It could be a telecoms company, it could be a chip company, it could be a real estate company, it could be a company already supplying electronics and real estate products into the market, like a General Electric or a Honeywell, and one of these people. It could be any one of those. We're doing a fundraising round at the moment, and we're in due diligence with a few individuals. If I don't know if we'll do another round after this in a couple of years. I don't know. Maybe we'll use traditional finance at that stage. I don't know yet.
Difficult one, all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in terms of marketing your products, you mentioned that you're doing some social housing in the UK. How did you get that job? How did you go about sort of landing that job?
The social housing sector in the UK, there's about 2,000 not-for-profit social housing providers in the UK, and most of them are part of, there's two associations. You're either part of one association or the other, and one of those associations ran a prop tech accelerator a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I got an email from the company who were employed to run that accelerator. I think it was around 2017, I think. And they asked, the email just said, would you be interested in having a conversation about this, blah, blah, blah. And I actually ignored the email because the same week I was just up the walls and I didn't know what social housing was in the first place. And I just thought it was just another bloody distraction,
Yeah.
A lot of accelerators are just a distraction, And so I forgot about it. Anyway, I got another email a week later from the same lady, and I guess I should show a bit of manners here, and I replied to it, and I started looking at the internet. The next thing I realized, oh my God, like this is like probably the single biggest property market in the UK. Like some of these social housing providers have 100, 200,000 properties.
Wow.
absolutely enormous. I would say the top 10 companies would be probably bigger than any of the private organizations in the UK.
Wow.
So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, hello, how are you?"
Yeah.
And so I did a call with the lady a few days later. She was very nice, and she thought we'd be a perfect fit for the program. So we applied for it, got through eventually, and one of my colleagues went back and forth to the UK for a couple of months, part of the program.
Okay, I can remember. That's the lady that works with you. Is it?
That's right. Yeah, she's actually moved on to another company now.
Okay.
But yeah, she went back and forth for a long time, and
I can remember meeting her with you a few years back. All right, yeah, and you were talking about being in the UK.
oh yeah, that was that's how I got involved with the social housing sector in the UK, and it was the relationships we built up with some of the social housing providers who were on that program. That's and we've kept those relationships going since. That's how we're today selling into them.
And do you have a number of you're active at the moment, kind of managing all that kind of stuff?
Sorry,
Are you active at the moment in the UK? So all of those properties that are you
yeah,
looking after?
we're managing everything from here. We have a partner in London that does installations for us and any maintenance, but
Okay.
business development and relationships and all that, and any updates or technical or security is all done from here.
Yeah, I must. I'll put standard access. I see it on the behind you there. Your phone number and your nice plug. The but I must. I'll put in the show notes access. Your website and things like that, so people can check it out. But I was going to just ask you in terms of advice over the years and bad advice, good advice, and do you want to kind of share any thoughts on just things to steer away from and just general advice for anyone who's kind of listening, given your long experience?
For start, if you're thinking of doing a startup, I suppose the most important thing really is once you have that idea, that great idea, that light bulb moment, is go and talk to potential customers immediately, and don't be afraid to talk to them. They're not going to rob your idea. Go and talk to them and say, "Is this something you'd buy off me? Is this something you'd pay for? How much would you pay for it? How many would you need?" This small, simple information, and then build what they call MVP, minimal viable product, a very simple product with no bells and whistles, no fancy features, just a minimum 2 or 3 things that makes our life 5%, 10% easier.
Mm. Great advice. It's actually what you've just told me reminds me of a story. I had a friend of mine, that's probably about 10 years ago now, but he was creating an online platform. I won't go into the details, but he asked me to sign an NDA so that he could show it to me. And a non-disclosure agreement. I was there like, sorry, you're a mate of mine. Like, why would I sign an NDA? And he's like, I can't tell you about my idea unless you sign this NDA.
Mm.
And I was just like I actually refused to sign it. I just thought, I'm not signing your NDA. I said,
Yeah,
you can show me your plans if you want, but I think it's probably one of the biggest mistakes people have is
I
that,
agree.
like you said, somebody is going to steal my idea,
Mm.
and they're going to end up worth millions, and I'm going to have no money because I shared my idea,
And
and it's just a complete false mindset that you've just
the,
got to get
the,
out of your head.
and the conspiracy theory stuff, like, and at the end of the day, right? If you're passionate about something, there's nobody in the world going to do better than you. You
Yeah,
know,
because your passion carries you through all the difficult times.
you should never be afraid to talk about your ideas. Yeah, of course, there's some things you don't do. You know what I mean? But you don't have to tell everybody the exact recipe. But you can give people an overview of what you're doing. You know,
Yeah.
be fair about it. As you know, Gavin, most people don't give a damn what you're doing anyway, or they're not that interested.
They're more focused on their own stuff. That's the
Yeah, they
reality.
don't have time. People don't
Yeah.
have time. People just have enough time to look after their own lives. And another, a good thing lesson my grandfather taught my father in 1955. He said to my father, he said, "Never depend on the business you think you should get," and it's so true.
Yeah.
You think, "Oh, I'm friends with this guy, whatever. He'll buy off me, whatever." Not going to happen unless you're creating value for somebody and are not interested.
Stay hungry, basically.
Stay hungry, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Great advice. And I was just going to say, Damien, my final question is usually the advice that you would have given yourself if you were starting out again 20 years at the age of 20. We won't give away your age any more than I give away mine. But say you're talking to your 20-year-old self. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Trust yourself all the time.
Back yourself up. Trust yourself.
Go with your gut. And they say that my wife always, and your wife and other women will always say about female intuition. Well, men have it too. And go with your gut every time and back yourself. And absolutely anybody who's negative, get them out of your life. Keep them away from you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even their family, siblings, keep them out of your life. Because negative people will never help you. They'll only bring you down.
I've heard that many, many times repeated over the years. Okay, Damien, thanks so much for the chat today. Can you just tell us if people wanted to reach out and inquire into your product or wanted to connect with you directly, how can they find you?
We're on Twitter, Standard Access. My own one is Damien Browne. LinkedIn, Standard Access. Or Damien at standardaccess.co. And if we can help you, we will. Great
stuff. Damien, been a great pleasure chatting with you, and wish you the best with the hardware. Now that you've got your patent in place, we're expecting big things to happen.
Thanks, Gavin. Much appreciated.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the conversation there with Mr. Damien Browne, and I hope you found it useful. One thing's for sure, getting the hardware technology sector, it's a tough sector to crack, and my hat's off to Damien for having the kind of perseverance and tenacity to kind of spend 5 years developing a product. I have put links to Standard Access and to Damien in the show notes below, and as we are coming to the end of the podcast, I shall read out the usual little bits that I do. That is the end of episode number 27 of Behind the Facade. Please check out the show notes below for links to the various websites mentioned today. Thank you so much for listening. My number one ask is for you guys to stop what you're doing right now and leave a review of the podcast. If you find this useful in any way, I would really be grateful if you could do that. It helps us get discovered and it helps us just kind of get up there in the algorithm. And if you have any questions or topics you would like me to cover in future episodes, please don't forget to join the Facebook group Behind the Facade Community. It's the best way to connect with me. Of course, you can connect with me on social media. My handle is Gavin J. Gallagher for pretty much everything. And lastly, if you would like to check out some of my video content, I have a YouTube channel dedicated to real estate related stuff, and it's called PropTech TV, where I post a lot of my content. Guys, I'm wishing you a great week, and this week I'm actually going to be interviewing 2 different guests, one based in London and one based in New York. So the next couple of episodes should be sweet, and wish you all a great week.